Ladies and gentlemen, the Commission welcomes the Court's annual report. I would like to underline the very constructive cooperation we have enjoyed with the Court. There is one piece of really good news in the report. The Court has given the accounts a completely clean bill of health, what auditors call an unqualified opinion. This is really a remarkable achievement in only the third year of the new accounting system. There is a second piece of very good news. The Court acknowledges that we are strengthening our supervisory systems. In 2007, for the first time, there is not a single chapter with a red card on control systems from the external auditor. Many efforts
Commissioner Kallas seems to have read a completely different document. I can assure him that as a UK PLC, this simply would not do at all. If any UK PLC had filed accounts of this nature for 14 years, which have been completely unacceptable, and again this year, and I do not regard the Court of Auditors as having given this a clean bill of health at all, and I have read the document, if the Commission were a board of UK PLC directors, I have to say they would now be in prison. Now, we have a situation here where this Parliament, if Parliament it is, which spends most of the year talking about bendy bananas, knobbly parsnips, standardisation of bottle sizes, and on Tuesday we were even voting on the standardisation of tractor seats. So this absurd organisation spends most of its year doing nothing very much of value. We only have one serious responsibility, and that is to hold the Commission to account on the budget. That is the most serious thing we can do. And it is going to go through again for the 15th year on the nod. It is an utter disgrace, and let the British MEPs know I am watching very carefully how they vote, and I will make sure that it is known back in the UK what they do out here, as opposed to what they actually say when they go home.
Für die Fraktionslosen Ashley Mote.
We all know that the European Commission's accounts can never be signed off until and unless two major underlying problems are finally resolved. Neither of them is new. First, there is no certainty about the opening balances for the accounting system, which was changed in 2005, because a year later there were huge readjustments which made it obvious that no reconciliation was or is possible. And secondly, the problem of shared management, which has already been referred to. The distribution of public funds to recipients who are then held responsible for both using and accounting for them. Even the internal auditors in member states admit the system is impossible to operate. For years, all we have ever heard, and we heard it again today from the Court and from the Commissioner, well-intentioned talk about improvements soon, managing risk, error rates, trivia. The reality is that nothing substantial changes, and the public is losing patience, and rightly so. Tinkering with the deck chairs on this particular Titanic does nothing to plug the holes in the bottom. We still have olive groves in the Aegean Sea, if the Greek figures are to be believed. The misuse of funds in Bulgaria is reported to be out of control. In Turkish-held northern Cyprus, €259 million of public money has been handed over for economic development. But the EU office in Nicosia openly admits it cannot monitor or control it, simply because we don't recognise the Turkish regime. Some of that money is just paid for new pavements in the booming holiday resort of Kyrenia, where the casinos do a roaring trade day and night. But the local regime chooses not to raise sufficient taxes and takes the view that if the EU is stupid enough to pay for them, that's fine by them. Yet that money could have been put to good use. Not only are the accounts unacceptable, but some of the judgments about how public money is used are unacceptable too.
Bill Newton-Dunn, 2 minutes.
Herr President, I want to say thank you very much to the Court of Auditors for their report, and thank you to the Commissioner and his team for the work that they are doing. This is such an important subject because when we look around the world, there is so much of a sign of failing and failed states in different parts of the world. I won't make a list of them, it's obvious, and that's where criminality flourishes and spreads to the rest of us. So we have to tackle these problems, and I'm satisfied that we're moving gradually in the right direction. Mr. President, I deeply regret that there's nobody in the seats of the Council, because it's the member states who are failing to do their job in this area. Not a single person in their seats at all, and I think we should try and correct that for next year. And I want to say one word to the absent Mr. Bloom from my country, who made a silly speech about knobbly carrots or something, and then walked out and didn't have the courtesy to listen to the rest of the debate. If he was here, he would have to hear me remind him that one major British government department dealing with pensions has failed to have its accounts approved for the last 14 years. So we in Britain have nothing to be proud of either. And one of the things that baffles me about the UK is that the British government refuses to cooperate with Olaf, which seems to me completely nonsensical and needs correcting, and I'd love to have an answer from the British government for that. But finally, Mr. President, my friend, one point directly addressed to you, Mr. President. We're going to make recommendations for the committees for the new Parliament next year. I think we should consider seriously how to strengthen the Committee on Budgetary Control, give it extra powers and responsibilities so that we continue to work very hard on this problem.
Thank you, Bill Newton-Dunn. The President will, like always, try to do his best. So thank you so much. And now, Markus Ferber, 2 minutes.
Mr. President, as my friend Mr. Bloom quite rightly said earlier, it is simply not true to say that the accounts have been fully signed off by the auditors. It seems that about €6 billion cannot be properly accounted for. At current exchange rates, that is about £4.7 billion. Britain's net contribution to the EU budget in 2007 was £4.3 billion. The net amount is after the UK rebate and our own money spent in our own country. There is, of course, no such thing as EU money. An amount of money exceeding the UK taxpayers' net contribution to the EU budget is quite possibly finding its way into the pockets of fraudsters. This neatly sums up British membership of the European Union, a complete and utter total waste of money. More and more British people are realising that the European Union...
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Kallis, at the very beginning of your mandate, your stated aim was to achieve a positive statement of assurance. And throughout the different reports we've had from the Court of Auditors in that time, not much, to be honest, has changed. And I fear in your reporting and your take on this current report that there is a kind of experience of Peter Mandelson coming through the fibre of your being. You have had a touch of the Mandelsons. Saying that everything is absolutely fine and spinning that the accounts are clean is disingenuous and simply not true. Blaming member states is not a decent defence, because Article 274 of the treaty tells you that the buck stops with the Commission. And who gives the member states the monies in the first place? Who, knowing that where the problems lie, and you're told every year by the gentleman sat beside you, who could tighten the purse strings or cut off money to fund some programmes? Mr. Kallis, the buck does stop with you. I'm afraid you have failed.
Gracias, señor Heaton-Harris.